Abadox is a good opportunity for me to bring up something that I've been wanting to for a while. The thing is, because I envision Famidaily as a catalog, I try not to have it tie down too much to the now. What's happening in 2022 isn't going to matter a whole lot to somebody who's looking it up 5 or 10 years down the line. But that doesn't mean the state of affairs of the world isn't affecting me or Famidaily. And that's why I want to talk to you for a moment about Famicom collecting in 2022. You see, I've had my copy of Abadox for a little over 2 weeks now. It's one of the closer calls I've had acquiring a game just in time to do a Famidaily episode. I have an NES copy I was planning to substitute if it came down to it, because there's only a few minor differences. And fortunately, I didn't need to do that. The reason I cut it so close is because I just couldn't find a loose copy of Abadox anywhere. And that's because Famicom collecting has changed a lot in the past 6 months. I've been collecting Famicom games for about 10 years now, and I've been getting serious about it for the past 3 years. In that time, I've gotten a good feel for about what things should cost and how rare they are. Abadox was an uncommon game, but not one that you had to scramble for, and it was on the pricey side for Famicom games at about 5,000 yen a copy. Since the fall of 2021, it feels like there's been an enormous spike in the Famicom collecting market. Now I know that's laughable when you compare it to anything in the US markets, but the Famicom and Japanese game collecting in general has been kind of a shelter from the craziness there. Well, not anymore. Game prices on anything that wasn't at the level of we can't give it away have doubled in the past 6 months. And anything that was kind of uncommon before has become incredibly rare now. And this hasn't been driven by foreign collectors rushing in to get Famicom stuff. You could get a US copy of Abadox for about $15. No, it seems like the collector's mania that has struck the US has infected Japan. And it has become very difficult to get these last few Famicom games I need for my set. And if that doesn't happen, it's not the end of the world. But it is really annoying when you've gotten yourself that close, and then suddenly the last few steps become much harder than they had been. I got lucky with a bargain and paid about 8,000 yen for my copy of Abadox, but I've seen it listed at 12,000 yen at other places. Okay, commentary on the current state of the Famicom market is over. Let's get to the game itself. And as you've been seeing from the gameplay footage I've been using, Abadox is a shoot-'em-up. One with a particularly gory, goopy theme. Clearly taking inspiration from Konami's Salamander. The idea here is that you're flying into a planet-sized organism to destroy it from within. There's also a princess for some reason. In the Famicom version, when you beat the game and rescue her, she's nude. I won't be showing that off. The stages alternate between horizontal scrolling and vertical scrolling, and the vertical scrolling is always taking you down. So you see, it's totally different from Salamander, where the vertical scrolling stages always took you up. For what it's worth, I checked, and although Natsume was founded by Konami programmers, none of this team worked on Salamander. Although they all worked on another game released 3 months later that isn't credited to Natsume. While you're flying around in Abadox, perhaps the most dangerous thing that you're going to encounter is the terrain. This is a game that loves cramming you into narrow spaces and forcing you to dodge a lot of shots. Naturally, there is no health bar, just one hit and you're dead, but they were very generous with the continue system. There are 7 stages, and all but the last one have a checkpoint in the middle after you defeat a mini-boss. You can continue as many times as you like, and you continue from the most recent checkpoint. Unfortunately, Abadox is a shoot-'em-up from the 1980s, and that means that after you die, you lose all of your power-ups and have a real uphill climb to be able to survive. Power-up capsules are released when you shoot down these blue scorpion-like enemies. Fundamentally, there's 5 different kinds of power-ups. The S's increase your speed. You're going to want at least one, and given the narrow spaces that you have to navigate, it's even more difficult than you'd expect if you collect extra ones. Level 1 felt about right to me. Level 2 is a little bit fast, but maybe you could get used to it, and anything above that is deadly. The P power-up gives you a personal barrier that will let you take a shot. This is a power-up that stacks, so if you collect extra ones, you can take extra hits. A bit more durable are the orbital barriers that you get by collecting bees. Every time you pick up one of those capsules, you get one additional orbiter. You can have up to 4 of them, and the amount that they can absorb is limited. However, every time you collect one of those icons, all of them are restored to full strength. If you hold down the A button while you have these orbiters, then it varies the distance that they orbit at. Personally, I didn't find that ability to be very useful. The default range was pretty good for sweeping projectiles away, while not letting them get too close. M's let you fire missiles, and these have an unusual property. On the first stage when you collect them, they just fire straight ahead. On every other stage when you collect them, the missiles track targets and home in on them. I suspect that this one was supposed to be a staggered power-up, but it does not work that way. And then we have the weapon capsules. These don't have a letter in them, just an odd design that you'll have to memorize. Your default pea shooter is not very good, which is what you'd expect. There's 2 different spread guns, a 3-shot version and a 5-shot version. Both of these are pretty bad. You can't rapid fire them, and you can only have 1 spread of shots out at a time. So they tend to be slow and ineffective. The laser gun fires a powerful beam straight forward. It's good for bosses, maybe not the best choice for other situations. My personal choice is the ring gun. It only shoots forward, but it's a nice big shot so you don't have to be directly in front of something, and it has a decent rate of fire. The stages in Abadox all have distinctive feels to them. They have distinctive looks and obstacles that you have to deal with. There isn't a lot of repetition and challenge here. Though I do think the visual design could be somewhat clearer. It can sometimes be tough to know what's the foreground and what's the background. That becomes a problem when there's some barriers that you have to destroy by shooting them. If you need help, there's 2 useful cheat codes to be aware of. First, there's this level select code, though it does require that you know that enormous chart of inputs for each level. Then there's this code which will let you get fully powered up with a laser if you pause the game. I wound up using that just so I could make sure I could push through to later levels. I find Abadox to be a pretty good, but not outstanding shoot 'em up. It's definitely enjoyable. It's a game I like going back to. But it's also not quite as strong as it could be. I would have liked to have seen more done with the biological theme, and I really wish that the weapon selection was a bit better. Still, this is one of the stronger shoot 'em ups on the Famicom. And it has a lot of technical flourishes to it that are really impressive.